furry trend just run into the bedroom? Jack scrambled for an excuse. That was Chrissy. She's wearing new slippers. Very fluffy. Very fast. Helen smiled. She knew. She always knew. Those slippers just whimpered, Jack. Okay. Jack sighed. We found her. We're trying to find a home for her. Mrs. Roper, please don't tell Stanley. Helen's expression softened. She looked at the door, then back at the kids. Stanley doesn't need to know everything. Besides, it's our anniversary tomorrow. If you could find a way to make that puppy a surprise on our doorstep, I might be able to convince him it was his. Idea! Jack's eyes lit up. Mrs. Roper, you're a genius. I know, she said, heading for the door. Now, give me that French stew. I want to see if Stanley can tell the difference between gourmet and kibble. Chapter 8. The Anniversary Surprise. The plan was executed with military precision. At 6:00 a.m., Jack crept down to the Roper's door and placed the puppy, now wearing a large red bow, on top of the morning edition of the Los Angeles Times. An hour later, the building was woken by Stanley's roar of confusion. Helen, why is the newspaper licking me? Jack, Johnny, and Chrissy watched from the top of the stairs as Helen emerged, feigning total shock. Stanley, oh, you darling man, you remembered our anniversary. I did, Stanley asked, looking at the puppy. A puppy, Helen cried, picking up the dog. Just what I always wanted. And you even left her on the doorstep to surprise me. How romantic. Stanley looked at the puppy. The puppy licked his nose. Well, Stanley said, his chest puffing out slightly. I knew you liked the fluffier things in life. Helen, happy anniversary. He looked up the stairs and saw the three roommates watching. See that? Tripper, Stanley called out. That's how a real man treats his wife, with a miniature golden hybrid. Jack gave him a thumbs up. Classy, Mr. Roper. Truly classy. As the Ropers went back inside, the dog barking happily, the three roommates retreated into their apartment. We did it, Chrissy cheered. The puppy has a home, and we still have a lease, Jeanne added. And Jack said, picking up a spatula, I don't have to eat any more experimental beef bourguignon. Chapter 9. The Couch and the Bully. The following Saturday was supposed to be a day of relaxation, but Jeanne had other plans. She had decided that the living room sofa, sagging monstrosity of orange plaid, needed to be refurbished. I've got the tacks, I've got the hammer, and I've got the ambition, Jeanne announced. Jack was lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling. I've got the exhaustion. Can't we just flip the cushions? No, Jeanne said. It's a man's job. Jack, you're the builder, the protector, the hewer of wood. I hewed some wood yesterday. Jack grumbled. I sharpened a pencil. Come on, Jack, Chrissy said. If you help us fix the couch, we'll go to the pub tonight. My treat. Jack sat up. The pub, with the cold beer and the peanuts? The very same. Hand me the hammer, Jack said. The project was a disaster from the start. Jack insisted on putting a dozen tacks in his mouth at once, like a professional upholsterer, which resulted in him accidentally swallowing one when Jeanne accidentally dropped a heavy spring on his foot. "I'm dying." Jack muffled through the tacks. "I'm an ironclad casualty." "Oh, stop being so dramatic," Jeanne said, though she looked worried. "Drink some water. Maybe it'll rust away." After 3 hours of hammering, cursing, and several near misses with a staple gun, the couch was finally fixed. It was now so firm that sitting on it felt like resting on a pile of bricks covered in plaid polyester. "It's supportive," Chrissy said, bouncing once and immediately stopping. "It's a masterpiece," Jack said, rubbing his sore back. "Now, let's go to the pub before I lose the ability to walk." The pub was crowded and smoky. They found a small table in the corner and ordered a round of beers. "You know," Jack said, feeling the glow of the alcohol, "men really are the stronger sex. Look at us. We conquered the couch. We faced the springs of doom. You cried when you hit your thumb, Jack," Jeanne pointed out. "That was a war cry." Jack insisted. The peaceful atmosphere was shattered when a large man broad-shouldered, wearing a leather vest and a permanent scowl, approached their table. He didn't look like he wanted to discuss upholstery. "Hi, honey," the man said, leaning over the table and staring directly at Chrissy. "Buy you a drink?" Chrissy blinked. "No thanks. I have one." "I'm talking about a real drink," the man growled. "Not that dishwater you're sipping." Jack felt the familiar tightening in his chest. The fat Kenny Jensen instinct. He looked at the man's fists. They were the size of hams. "Excuse me," Jack said, his voice a bit thin. "She said she's fine." The man turned his gaze to Jack. It was like being stared at by a hungry bear. "Did I ask you?" "Tinkerbell." Jeanne and Chrissy went quiet. The surrounding tables went quiet. "Look," Jack said, trying to find a compromise. "We're just here to celebrate a fixed couch. No need for a scene." "I'll show you a scene," the man said, grabbing Jack's collar and lifting him 2 inches off the chair. "Why don't you take a walk before I use you to mop the floor?" Jack looked at Jeanne. He looked at Chrissy. He saw the disappointment and the fear in their eyes. "Okay," Jack said softly. "I'm going." "No problem." The man laughed, dropping Jack back into his seat. "Smart move, kid. Now, how about that drink, Blondie?" Chrissy stood up, her face red. "I'm with him. And we're leaving." They walked out of the pub in silence. The Santa Monica night air felt cold. "I'm sorry," Jack said, staring at the sidewalk. "I was yellow. I've got chicken in my blood." "Jack, don't say that," Jeanne said, though she didn't look at him. "He was huge. He would have killed you." "A man's got to do what a man's got to do," Jack muttered. "And apparently, what I do is run." Chapter 10. The Redemption of Jack Tripper. The next morning, Jack was a ghost in his own apartment. He refused to cook. He refused to joke. He even refused to watch the Sunday morning cartoons. I'm a coward, Johnny, he told her as she tried to dice onions for an omelet. I should have stood up to him. I should have wrung his neck. With what? Johnny asked,